An elderly gypsy woman has her home repossessed. To get her revenge, she places a curse on the loan officer who denied her extension. Curses her to hell. Hello and welcome back to Fatal Film, a watch-along horror movie video series where every 2 weeks I give you guys a horror movie and then we sit down and we talk about it. This week we watched the 2009 film Drag Me to Hell, Sam Raimi's return to horror after like nearly 20 years away from the genre. So the movie starts off with the scene of this young Mexican boy being fucking dragged to hell after he was caught stealing jewelry from a group of gypsies. Fast forward 40 years and we're introduced to our new characters, Christine and Clay, played by Alison Lohman, and Justin Long. Christine, she works at a bank, she works with loans, and she's like in the middle of competing for a promotion. Her workplace kind of sucks. It's one of those things where the boss is like clearly pitting these two employees against each other, Christine and this fucking douchebag named Stu. Just some corporate bullshit, I can't stand it. So early on in the film, this elderly gypsy woman, Mrs. Ganoush, comes in and she meets with Christine and she's basically begging for an extension on a loan. But Christine, she's here, she needs to put up the numbers. She can't afford to be extending all of these loans. She's competing for this promotion after all. So she denies Mrs. Ganoush. Poor fucking Mrs. Ganoush, dude. And she's making a scene. She's on her fucking hands and knees. She's begging. And she's grabbing Christine and Christine's freaking out. She calls in security. And Mrs. Ganoush, she doesn't like that shit. You shamed me, she says.
Mrs. Ganesh.
So Mrs. Ganoush, she doesn't like that shit. She waits for Christine in the parking lot after she's off. She had her house fucking repossessed. She got publicly shamed and humiliated. So she attacks Christine in her car. And this is kind of like our first introduction to how just ridiculous this film is really gonna be. Yeah, it's kind of scary, but at the same time, it's done in a pretty comical way. Just the way the camera shoots and zooms in to certain reactions and these certain shots. It's actually pretty hilarious. Mrs. Ganoush getting hit with a staple, her eyes fucking stapled shut. The camera zooms in. It's actually a pretty hilarious scene, and this is like the first of many scenes where you get these moments of like gross out mouth horror. I don't know what else to call it. There's a lot of things in this movie to do with the fucking mouth. I don't know what it is. The gypsies, she gets her fucking dentures knocked out. she's straight up gumming. She's gumming Christine, munching on her fucking face with her gums. And there's this CG spit and saliva that looks like they added afterwards. It looks fake as hell, but it's kind of funny. And another recurring thing that keeps happening to Christine every time she encounters Mrs. Ganoush, not only the mouth shit, but also she always ends up getting her hair ripped out. Every fucking time. So no, you're not really supposed to take this seriously. Even Christine herself, after she locks the door and gets Mrs. Ganoush out, she starts laughing. She's like, "I beat you, bitch." And the scene ends with Mrs. Ganoush placing a curse on Christine. She rips off one of her buttons from her jacket and she returns it back to her with a curse. So I don't know why, but this curse all seems to revolve around this button. I don't know if she could just throw the button away and then the curse would be gone, or just throw it in the trash. I don't know the minutia of the fucking curse. Christine's pretty traumatized, pretty rattled by the events. So, Clay, her boyfriend, comes and picks her up, played by Justin Long. And Justin Long's character, he comes from this rich family. He's probably too good for her. He's a bit of a nerd. He's into collecting these old coins. I think at one point Christine even, gives him this old coin that she found. And while they're walking down the street, Christine, she wants to go and meet with this fortune teller that they walk past. Clay is super skeptical. He doesn't really want to go through with it, but Christine, she's adamant. So we're introduced with the fortune teller, same fucking dude. This guy plays either a fortune teller or a doctor in every movie he's ever in. Same guy from Avatar. So he's taking her fortune, and right away he kind of gets her trust because he immediately points out the button. He's like, "I know about the button." So Christine, she puts a lot of faith in this fortune teller. But while she's having her fortune read, he gets this flash, this glimpse of this fucking demon. It's like a jump scare. And he's like, "Nope, get the fuck out of here. I can't help you." And this is where the haunting, I guess, really kind of begins and really kicks in. She's not really being haunted by a ghost per se. She's straight up being haunted by a fucking demon. She's seeing these silhouettes with these guys with fucking horns and goat heads and shit. And they straight up get physical with her. They could pick her up and toss her around and attack her. It's crazy. And on top of the demons, she's also being haunted by Mrs. Ganoush, the fucking gypsy lady. And she's having nightmares and, more mouth shit happens. happens. So Christine, now she's kind of desperate. She's looking for answers. She tracks down Mrs. Ganoush.
How's that curse I cursed you with, Kirsty?
I know you don't remember me.
And she tracks down her family. But it turns out Mrs. Ganoush, she died. I wonder why. And Christine arrives literally in the middle of Mrs. Ganoush's funeral. And she's there, she's viewing the body, she walks up to the casket, but that shit gets knocked over and falls on top of Christine. Ms. Ganoush is, her mouth is, leaking all of this dead person goop straight into Christine's face. Shit is so gross, and it's like, who's the victim here? Is it Christine? Or is it fucking Mrs. Ganoush? This chick can't catch a break. And of course she ends up ripping out more of her hair. I love it. So now Christine goes back to the fortune teller because it was kind of clear that he may have known more than what he was leading on. And he suggests to perhaps make like a small sacrifice to appease the demon. And Christine is totally against that idea. But, after she gets attacked again, this time like way more severely, and she's literally being lifted up in the air and tossed around in her room. Then she's like, okay, let's make this fucking sacrifice. And she, god damn it, she kills her cat, her kitty. Who could do this? No, after all the shit that I've just been through over the past few weeks, this scene, I'm just like, you know what, Christine, this bitch, she's getting what's coming to her. And to make matters worse, the sacrifice, that shit didn't even work. So the fortune teller suggests another person, a medium, who can help her. It is actually the same, spiritualist medium from the very beginning of the movie 40 years earlier with the young Mexican boy. And this medium can do a seance for a small fee of fucking $10,000. So now Christine needs to come up with this money. She's looking for all of this shit that she can sell off for $10,000. She doesn't have enough money. While she's looking through all of her shit, she's in like her shed or her garage. She meets Mrs. Ganoush again. This scene is so ridiculous. She straight up drops an anvil on the gypsy's head. This is like some Looney Tunes shit. Who just has an anvil hanging up by a rope in the middle of their garage? It is crazy. Her eyes are popping out. So Christine is short of the $10,000, so in comes Justin Long to save the day. Clay, her boyfriend, ends up fronting the $10,000 to go ahead with the seance. And this seance is absolutely ridiculous. First of all, it's being done in like the Haunted Mansion or some shit. The set decor here is really hamming it up. And like this entire scene, like things really get dialed up. Things are really getting crazy in this scene. You got flames coming up, you got dancing demons that are fucking levitating, and as soon as it was over, the medium, the spiritualist, she dies. She dies right then and there. She's been waiting 40 years to have another crack at this demon. It's kind of like been her life's work, which is kind of strange, and why she would charge $10,000. But anyways, Christine, now she thinks it's over, but the fortune teller's like, no, we only banished the demon from the seance. We didn't actually lift the curse. And so he then reveals that the only way now, pretty much, they've exhausted all of their options. The only way to get rid of the curse now is to gift the button to somebody else, and that will pass along the curse. And I'm just like, shit, that's all she needed to do? Even Christine is like, why didn't you tell me this before? Shit, that's all you had to say, bitch. But I guess, whoever you gifted to, you're banishing them to an eternity in hell, which is probably a mean thing to do to another person. So, Christine, she's gonna go ahead with it. She's gonna go through with it. And, she's contemplating who to give it to. One of the people she kind of lands on is Stu from her work, this fucking douchebag. And I'm just like, yes, do it. But she couldn't do it. Then she considers giving it to just like this old person. He's already lived a full life. But, she's like, she doesn't want to do that either. So she ends up giving it back to Mrs. Ganoush. She goes to the graveyard, opens up her fucking casket, and shoves that fucking button right down her throat. But Mrs. Ganoush, she's not one to go down without a fight. Of course, she's ripping out more hair. I fucking love it. But Christine successfully gifts the button right back to Mrs. Ganoush, and apparently it can be gifted to a dead person. I guess that shit works. And then, that's it. Curse lifted. Happy ending. Riding off into the sunset. Clay and Christine, they're gonna go on a weekend trip together. They're meeting on the train platform. When Clay whips it out, an envelope containing the fucking button. Oh, the fucking bait and switch. Because earlier in the film, Christine gave Clay this old coin that she had found. Because again, he collects these old coins because he's a fucking nerd. And then the envelopes, they got switched. So she ended up giving Mrs. Ganoush the coin. She gave her the coin, and then Clay had the button. Then Clay gave the button back to fucking Christine. Right there on the train platform, she's freaking out. She's like, oh no, what the fuck? She falls onto the tracks, and she gets dragged to hell. God damn, and this scene is brutal. You know, her skin is fucking melting off. She's getting pulled under. Damn. She should have extended that loan. And that's pretty much it for the plot of the film. This movie, it's a lot of fun. You know, Sam Raimi's first horror movie since Army of Darkness. You know, he did the Evil Dead trilogy. And I don't know if Sam Raimi can make a serious horror movie if he tried. It's kind of just his brand of horror. He does horror, but he always puts like this comedic over-the-top twist on it. Like those original Evil Dead movies, they are so fucking gratuitous and over the top. There's gross out scenes in those movies as well. There's really a lot of kind of common threads at these films. And I think if you don't know that, and I think if you're not expecting that, and you're expecting more of a traditional horror film, you're probably going to be pretty put off by the weirdness of this movie. But me personally, I thought this shit was hilarious. I thought it was super entertaining. It's a pretty tough watch. There's a lot of gross shit that happened, all the stuff with the mouth. And for me, all that mouth stuff, that's, for some reason, that really hits me hard. I was like, oh, ugh, all that mouth stuff, it's so gross. That dead body goop inside of the mouth. Oh, I think one of my biggest criticisms that I have for this movie that I wish they would have done differently was less of a reliance on a lot of CG. Like even that scene where I'm talking about with the stuff coming out of Mrs. Ganush's mouth, like it looks fucking fake as hell. Like that's clearly not actually like there's no actual liquid in this scene. That was all put in afterwards, and it looks super fake. I really wish that they went with a more practical effect approach in this film, especially, you know, looking at the old Evil Dead movies. Those were all like really heavily leaning on practical effects. This movie, you know, Sam Raimi opted to do the complete opposite, and all of the effects are like CG. And not only that, but the CG hasn't aged particularly well. Like maybe it looks good in 2009, but watching this now, it's just like, damn, that looks terrible. But other than that, I thought the pacing was really good for the film. The performances were fantastic. Alison Lohman and Justin Long were really good in this movie. And I thought they had a pretty compelling villain in Mrs. Ganush. I thought it was very entertaining. I give this movie a 7 out of 10. I thought it was very, very good. You know, in the compendium of Sam Raimi horror films, I think this is probably like the one that would probably score the lowest for me personally. But, I mean, at the end of the day, it's still a Sam Raimi horror film, and it's a lot of fun. For next episode of Fatal Film, you know, it's summer. It's July, it's hot as hell, the kids are out of class, so I thought this would be a good opportunity to check out Sleepaway Camp, the 1983 slasher horror flick. I've never seen this movie before. I know some things about it, but I've never seen it front to back, so this will be my first time, and we will talk about it in 2 weeks' time. Thank you guys so much for watching. Peace out.